Outstanding work on this cost reduction plan, Mason. Your analysis just saved our entire steel operation. I watched Plant Director Rachel Torres shake my young colleague's hand like he'd just prevented the mill from shutting down. The grip lasted too long, her smile too wide. Mason Rivera leaned back in that conference chair with this calm confidence that made my jaw tighten. 14 people in that executive meeting room, every single one looking at him like he'd pulled our Pennsylvania steel plant back from bankruptcy. Maybe he had, if you asked him, if you asked anyone in that moment, but I knew the real temperature reading. My name is Garrett Walsh. I'm 53 years old, and that was the day I stopped letting corporate kids take credit for my heat treating. Let me back up. 6 months earlier, our plant was bleeding money faster than a cracked furnace. Production costs were up 30%, efficiency was down, and corporate was making noises about shutdowns. That's when Rachel called me into her office and laid it out straight. We need a complete overhaul of our processes, Garrett. Cost reduction, efficiency improvements, everything. You're our most experienced production guy. Can you handle it? I said yes, because that's what you do when you've got 32 years in steel and bills to pay. My daughter Sarah was starting her sophomore year at Penn State, $25,000 per semester, and that's with in-state tuition. My wife Linda had been putting in extra shifts at the hospital, working nights as a nurse to help cover expenses. But healthcare doesn't pay what it used to. We needed my job secure, so I dove in. 6 months of 14-hour days while Mason Rivera, our 28-year-old operations analyst with his MBA and 18 months of experience, left every Thursday at 4 p.m. for his networking mixers. 6 months of running metallurgical calculations until my brain felt fried, finding the stress fractures in our steel production that were bleeding money faster than we could count it. Mapping out step-by-step processes to eliminate waste and actually forge profitable operations. The thermal analysis was mine, every single calculation. The workflow optimizations showing which stations to consolidate and which to upgrade, all mine. The maintenance schedules that would prevent another catastrophic breakdown, mine. The supplier evaluation identifying which vendors were delivering substandard raw materials, mine. I'd even color-coded the implementation timeline so executives could follow without getting lost in the technical specs. Mason had contributed exactly 2 things: his PowerPoint skills and his ability to show up on time wearing the right tie. Here's what I discovered during those 6 months. Our biggest problem wasn't the equipment, it was the sequencing. We had bottlenecks in furnaces 2 and 5 that were creating cascade failures throughout our entire production line. The heat treating schedule was completely wrong. Raw material flow was backing up because nobody had mapped the actual workflow in years. Quality control checkpoints were in the wrong places, catching defects too late in the process. I spent weeks timing every operation, measuring heat cycles, analyzing where we were losing efficiency. I found $200,000 in quarterly waste just in our material handling system. Another $150,000 in unnecessary energy costs because our heating sequences weren't optimized. The maintenance program I designed would eliminate 90% of our unscheduled shutdowns. But here's the thing about corporate presentations. They don't want to hear from the guy with steel dust on his boots. They want to hear from the guy in the nice suit who can explain things in MBA language. So when it came time to present my 6 months of work to the executive team, guess who got to be the spokesperson? Thank you, Rachel. I really value the recognition, Mason said after she finished praising his innovative thinking. His voice had this modest quality, like he was trying not to sound arrogant but couldn't help feeling proud about saving jobs. I waited 5 seconds, 10, 15. He didn't mention my name, didn't even glance toward my end of the table. Rachel moved on to quarterly projections, still talking about Mason's strategic vision. Someone else chimed in about how impressive it was that he'd identified inefficiencies their entire leadership team had missed. Another executive mentioned his analytical skills. Mason just nodded along, absorbing credit for work he couldn't have done if you handed him a thermocouple and pointed him toward the blast furnace. I sat there watching this whole performance, thinking about Sarah's tuition bill sitting on my kitchen table, about Linda working double shifts because we needed every dollar, about 32 years of building expertise that was apparently worth less than an MBA and good presentation skills. The meeting wrapped up. People started collecting their materials, shaking hands, making small talk about weekend plans and the upcoming maintenance shutdown. Mason stood up, straightening his jacket, chatting with the VP about some industry conference he'd be attending next month. I reached up and unclipped my security badge. The metal was warm from being against my shirt for the last 4 hours. I set it down on the conference table between the forgotten coffee cups and the stack of technical reports I'd prepared. Then I stood up. I'm done here. Effective immediately. The room didn't go silent exactly, but conversation stopped mid-sentence. The VP Mason was talking to looked over at me with this confused expression like I'd started speaking a foreign language. Rachel took a step toward me. "What are you talking about, Garrett? I'm resigning right now. I'll email something official by end of shift, but consider this my formal notice." Mason finally looked at me, really looked, and I caught it there in his expression. This flicker of panic he tried to cover up quick. "Let's discuss this outside," Rachel said, already moving toward the door. "Nothing to discuss." I walked out, just turned and left while they all stood there trying to process what had happened, didn't storm out, didn't make a scene. Just walked normal pace through the mill floor, past the blast furnaces I'd spent months analyzing, past the operators who'd gotten used to seeing me with my temperature gun and clipboard, got in my truck and drove home. When I pulled into my driveway, Linda was just getting back from her day shift at the hospital. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" "I quit." She didn't ask why right away, just nodded and said, "Come inside. We'll figure it out." That night, sitting at our kitchen table with Sarah's tuition bill between us, I told Linda everything. About Mason taking credit. About 6 months of my work being handed over to someone else. About watching executives praise him for innovations he couldn't have conceived if his life depended on it. "So what's next?" Linda asked. I didn't know yet, but I knew I was done letting other people get rich off my expertise while I worried about paying for my daughter's education. Rachel started calling within 30 minutes of me walking out. Then the calls turned into texts. I let the first few go to voicemail, but by the 15th attempt I picked up just to make it stop. "You're overreacting," she said. No greeting, no asking if I was okay. Just straight into telling me I was wrong. Mason was accepting praise for the team. That's what department heads do. Department heads? I repeated. Mason's a department head now. You know what I mean? He was representing the work you both contributed to. Rachel, tell me one thing Mason added to that efficiency plan besides spell-checking the executive summary. Silence long enough, I thought my phone had died. "It's more complicated than that," she finally said. "Mason has relationships with corporate. They trust his presentations. That matters in situations like this. So I do the analysis and he gets the applause because people like his MBA vocabulary better." "That's not what I'm saying then. What are you saying?" More silence. Then, "Sleep on it. Don't make any permanent decisions. We can work this out Monday." I hung up and looked at Linda. She was sitting across from me at our kitchen table, still in her nurse scrubs from the hospital. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think you've been letting them walk all over you for too long," she said. "But Sarah's tuition is due in 6 weeks, and Mike's truck payment is coming up. We need to be smart about this." She was right. Mike, our 22-year-old, was working as a welder at a fabrication shop across town. But he was still living with us and trying to save money. Good kid, worked hard, but welding doesn't pay enough to cover truck payments and student loans from his trade school. That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I updated my LinkedIn profile. Not with some angry post about what happened. Nothing dramatic. Just quietly updated my experience, my certifications, the specific steel production improvements I'd implemented over 32 years. I made sure every process optimization I'd developed was listed under my name with exact details about cost savings and efficiency gains. I added the furnace reconfiguration that increased output by 28%, the raw material handling system that reduced waste by $200,000 quarterly, the preventive maintenance program that eliminated 90% of unscheduled shutdowns, the quality control checkpoint system that cut defect rates from 3.2% to 0.8%, all documented with precise numbers, exact timelines, measurable results. Monday morning, I woke up to 11 messages from people I'd never worked with directly. Plant managers from different steel operations, production directors from manufacturing companies I'd heard of but never contacted. They'd seen my profile updates. They'd heard about the cost reduction methodology I'd built, and they wanted to know if I was available to help with their struggling operations. At first, I figured maybe Rachel had recommended me as some kind of peace offering. But when I talked to the first one, he mentioned he'd been trying to track me down for months after hearing about my work through industry contacts. "We've got a similar situation," he told me. A plant manager from Ohio, voice tired but hopeful. Facility that expanded too fast, hemorrhaging money on inefficient processes, equipment that's not synchronized, operators working around problems instead of solving them. I heard you're the guy who knows how to fix this kind of mess. Where did you hear that? People talk. Your methodology has been circulating in our industry network. Everyone wants to know who developed it. We're not looking for another consultant who's going to give us a fancy presentation and disappear. We need someone who understands how steel production actually works. Not Mason's name, mine. The second call was from Michigan, a foundry that was losing money on every pour. The third was from West Virginia, a rod mill that couldn't figure out why their cycle times kept increasing despite new equipment. By Wednesday, I had 15 different steel operations asking me to consult on their failing processes. They didn't want someone to patch problems temporarily. They wanted someone who could look at a broken production line and rebuild it from the foundation up. That was my specialty. The thing I'd gotten good at over 32 years of actually working mill floors, not just reading about them in business school. I started saying yes. 1 project initially, then 2 simultaneously, then 4. The work was intense, but different than before. Instead of spending months on a single plant while someone else got celebrated for it, I was spending 4 to 6 weeks on each one, getting paid what I should have been making in a year, and getting thanked by the actual decision makers who knew exactly who'd done the work. My first rate was $150 per hour. These plant managers didn't even blink. One guy in Ohio said that was cheap compared to what the big consulting firms were charging, and they didn't know half of what I knew about steel production. The Ohio foundry was bleeding $85,000 monthly on material waste. I spent 3 weeks mapping their workflow, identified 4 bottlenecks causing cascade failures throughout their entire operation, fixed it with equipment repositioning and operator retraining that cost them $20,000 and saved them $75,000 monthly going forward. The plant manager shook my hand and said it was the best money they'd ever invested. The Michigan rod mill was running at 55% efficiency because nobody had optimized their heating sequence. I redesigned their thermal processes, reduced energy consumption by 35%. Their productivity jumped 30% in the first month. At home, things were getting better. Sarah called from Penn State to tell us she'd gotten a partial academic scholarship for her junior year. That would cut her tuition by $8,000. Mike had gotten a promotion at the welding shop, enough to cover his truck payment and start looking for his own place. And Linda could finally drop those extra shifts. She'd been working nights and weekends for 2 years, wearing herself out to help cover our expenses. Now she could work normal hours and actually have energy when she got home. But the best part was watching Mason struggle at the plant. I heard through people still working there that the implementation wasn't going according to plan. The efficiency numbers I'd projected weren't materializing. Equipment downtime was getting worse, not better. The cost savings weren't showing up in the quarterly reports because he hadn't created it. That's why he couldn't execute it. You can't implement something you never understood in the first place. Rachel kept trying to reach me, less frequently as weeks passed, but still sending messages asking if I'd reconsider. The efficiency plan was falling behind schedule. Corporate was asking questions. They needed me back. Mason tried exactly once. A single text. Hope there's no bad blood. You're really experienced, and I'm sure you'll find success. I stared at that message for a long time. 32 years of steel production reduced to really experienced. Like I was some promising apprentice he was encouraging. I blocked his number. But here's what Mason didn't understand, what none of them understood. I wasn't bitter anymore. I was grateful. Getting forced out was the best thing that could have happened. I'd been playing their game, hoping someone would notice my work, waiting for recognition that was never coming. Now I was playing my own game. The one who I was working with 21 different steel operations, making more money than I'd thought possible, getting recognized by name when I walked into plants. People listened when I talked. Nobody interrupted to rephrase what I'd just explained. Nobody's name appeared on my work except mine. I had business cards that said Garrett Walsh, Steel Production Consultant. My own letterhead, my own contracts, my own rates. When plant managers called me, they weren't calling Mason's assistant or going through Rachel's approval process. They were calling me directly because they'd heard my name specifically mentioned by other managers who'd seen results. And then Rachel's name showed up on my phone again. Different timing this time, late evening on a Tuesday. I almost didn't answer, but something made me curious. Maybe it was the hour. Plant directors don't call at 9 p.m. unless something's really wrong. We need help. Her voice sounded strained, exhausted. The efficiency numbers are getting worse. Corporate wants you back. Name your terms. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Imagined her in her office, probably stressed, probably desperate, probably getting pressure from above about why the cost reduction strategy wasn't working. What happened to your strategic genius? The pause that followed told me everything I needed to know. He couldn't execute the plan. Execute. That's an interesting way to put it, Garrett. Listen, I know how this looks. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like Mason took credit for work he couldn't actually implement. And now you're in trouble because you believed him. Corporate is asking questions. They want to know why the implementation isn't matching projections. They're asking specifically for you by name. Of course they are. Because executives aren't stupid. They can tell the difference between someone who understands steel production and someone who's just presenting charts. The cost savings you calculated aren't materializing. Equipment efficiency is actually declining, not improving. We've had 3 unscheduled shutdowns in the past month. The quality control issues you fixed are coming back. Because he didn't create it, I said. That's why he couldn't execute it. You can't implement something you never understood in the first place. Rachel made this sound, half sigh, half groan. Please, we're hemorrhaging money. The corporate team is panicking. I'm being told to fix this, or they're replacing me. The board wants answers. Your methodology was supposed to save us, but without you here to implement it, everything's falling apart. My methodology is fine. Your execution is the problem. Then come back and execute it. Whatever you want, whatever it costs. I sat down in my home office, phone pressed to my ear, thinking about all those times I'd watched Mason get praised for my work. All those times I'd swallowed my frustration and told myself to keep my head down and produce good results. All those times I'd convinced myself that eventually someone would notice who was actually doing the work. But this was different. This wasn't about recognition anymore. This was about leverage. I'll consult, I said, but I'm not coming back as an employee. I work for myself now. Fine, whatever. Name your price. $200 per hour. And that's consulting rate, not annual salary. You're paying me what I'm worth now, not what you decided I was worth before. I heard her calculate quickly. 200 times 40 hours times however many weeks this would take. Probably more than they'd paid me in 8 months of salary. Done. Anything else? Yeah. I present directly to corporate and plant leadership. No intermediaries, no managers filtering my recommendations. Just me explaining my work to the people making decisions. Of course. Absolutely. And Mason sits in that room while I do it. Silence long enough, I checked my phone to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Rachel, did you hear me? I heard you. I just don't understand why that's necessary. Because I want him to watch while I explain every single process he claimed as his own. Every efficiency improvement he took credit for. Every calculation he couldn't reproduce. I want him to sit there while the same people who praised him realize exactly what happened. That's the condition. Take it, or I hang up and you can figure this out yourself. More silence then. I'll arrange it. We scheduled the meeting for 2 weeks out. That gave me time to finish my current projects and prepare for what was coming. Those 2 weeks felt longer than the previous 12 combined. I kept working with my other clients, kept building my reputation. But part of my brain was already planning what I'd say in that room. I spent those 2 weeks documenting everything, not just the final strategy, but my entire process. The initial plant assessment where I'd identified the inefficiencies, the thermal studies I'd conducted on each furnace, the material flow analysis that revealed which suppliers were causing delays, the maintenance schedules I'd developed, the training protocols I'd written, every email I'd sent, every revision I'd made, every late night I'd spent running calculations while Mason was at his networking events. I had timestamps, version histories, documented conversations, a complete record of who had actually done the work. The night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, from anticipation. I lay there thinking about Mason's face when corporate had praised him. That calm confidence, that easy acceptance of recognition he hadn't earned. Tomorrow that was going to change. I showed up 15 minutes early. The plant looked the same as 3 months ago. but walking into it felt completely different. Last time, I'd been an employee hoping someone would notice my work. This time, I was a hired expert. They were paying premium rates to fix their disaster. Rachel met me at the gate. She looked worse than she'd sounded on the phone. Dark circles under her eyes, suit not as crisp as usual. The kind of exhaustion that comes from weeks of explaining to corporate why your numbers don't match your projections. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Corporate's already here. They flew in specifically for this. They're very eager to hear from you. Is Mason here? He's here." I told him he needed to attend as part of the transition briefing. He didn't have much choice. We walked through the plant toward the main conference room. My footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. I passed the blast furnaces I'd analyzed, the equipment I'd recommended repositioning, the workstations where I'd spent hours timing operations. I wasn't wearing the same clothes as last time. I'd chosen something sharper, more expensive. The kind of outfit that said I wasn't asking for permission anymore. The room was packed when we entered. 18 people, but different faces this time. The full corporate team had flown in from Pittsburgh. Senior plant leadership I recognized from my employee days. Regional operations managers who'd probably heard about the efficiency problems from multiple facilities. And Mason sitting near the back, looking like he wished he could disappear into the wall. Our eyes met for half a second. He looked away first. "Everyone, this is Garrett Walsh," Rachel announced. "He'll be walking us through the cost reduction strategy and its implementation." Several executives nodded. One of them, the same corporate VP who'd been so impressed 3 months ago, stood up and shook my hand. "We've heard a lot about you," he said. "People in the industry speak very highly of your work. I appreciate that." Everyone found seats. I moved to the front, connected my laptop to the projector, and pulled up my presentation. 6 months of work, plus 2 weeks of documentation, distilled into a format that would take 90 minutes to properly explain. I didn't rush, didn't summarize. I was getting paid $200 per hour to be here. They were going to get every minute of value, time to set the record straight. I walked them through every single component. Started with the initial assessment, how I'd identified which processes were draining resources without adding value. Showed them the thermal studies I'd run on their steel production workflow. The specific bottlenecks where decisions had been made without adequate data. Explained exactly how I'd rebuilt their efficiency model from the ground up. "This section here," I said, pointing to a particularly complex thermal diagram, required understanding the interdependencies between 3 different furnace operations. I spent 4 weeks just mapping heat flow because one mistake here would have meant production delays worth thousands per hour. One of the corporate executives leaned forward. "Mason, did you work on this analysis?" I didn't look at Mason. Kept my focus on the executive. I developed this analysis independently. It required specific knowledge of metallurgical engineering and hands-on production experience. Mason stayed quiet. I moved to the next section, the equipment optimization strategies, the station-by-station breakdown of where to reallocate resources and where to invest in automation. The implementation timeline that would minimize disruption while maximizing efficiency gains. The key insight here, I explained, was recognizing that the problem wasn't the equipment itself. It was the thermal sequencing. You had bottlenecks in furnaces 2 and 5 that were creating cascade failures throughout your entire production line. That mismatch was killing your output. The same VP was taking notes now, really engaged, asking questions about specific data points. "How did you identify which operations had the longest heat cycles?" He asked. "Direct observation and thermal measurement over 5 weeks, cross-referenced with production data and maintenance logs. Took about 95 hours of floor time. But once the pattern became clear, the solutions followed naturally." Another executive spoke up about the implementation plan. "How confident are you that this will work? The methodology is sound. The issue you've been having is execution. This strategy requires someone who understands not just what to do, but why each step matters and how they connect. You can't follow it like a recipe. You have to understand the underlying metallurgical principles, which is why it wasn't working," one of the VPs said slowly, realization dawning. "You thought you could just follow the plan, but without understanding the engineering behind it, it falls apart the moment you hit an unexpected variable." I finished. "Which you did multiple times." I glanced at Mason briefly. He was staring at his hands, jaw tight. The presentation continued for another 45 minutes. I answered every question. clarified every confusion, walked them through scenarios and contingencies and alternative approaches if certain assumptions proved wrong. By the end, the energy in the room had completely shifted. The executives who'd been skeptical were talking about moving forward. The plant leadership was asking about implementation schedules. "This is exceptional work," the lead VP said. "I have to ask. When we were here 3 months ago, we were told this was Mason's strategy. Can you clarify how that collaboration worked?" The room got very still. I looked at Mason, made sure everyone saw me looking at him. Then I turned back to the VP. There was no collaboration. I built this strategy alone over 6 months. Mason's contribution was attending the meeting where I presented it to you. You could feel the shift. Not dramatic, but people sat back differently, exchanged glances, reassessed everything they thought they knew. The VP who'd shaken Mason's hand 3 months ago looked over at him. "Is that accurate?" Mason opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I mean, we worked as a team." Answer the question. One of the executives said, "Did you develop this strategy?" The silence stretched out. Mason's face had gone red, not from anger, from embarrassment, from being cornered in front of people whose respect he'd been borrowing without earning. "No," he finally said. "I didn't develop it." Nobody said anything for a moment. Then the lead VP cleared his throat. "Mason, I think we need to have a separate conversation about this." "We all do," another executive said. His tone wasn't angry, just matter of fact, like he was recalculating everything he'd thought he knew. "We made resource allocation decisions based on our assessment of your technical capabilities. If that assessment was inaccurate, we need to understand why." I spent the next 30 minutes outlining exactly what had to happen. Which processes to optimize first, which equipment needed upgrading, how to retrain operators without disrupting production, what metrics to track daily versus weekly, who needed to be making which decisions. They listened. Really listened. Asked smart questions. Took notes. Mason sat there the entire time, not contributing, not speaking unless directly addressed, which he wasn't. When the meeting finally wrapped up, people came up to thank me individually. Shook my hand, told me they were relieved to have me involved, asked when I could start implementation. Mason left without saying goodbye to anyone. Over the next 14 weeks, I worked with them on implementation, not as an employee. As an independent expert, they were paying premium rates to access. I came in twice a week, met with operators and supervisors, checked progress, adjusted processes when real-world variables proved different than projected. The turnaround started showing results within 10 weeks. Efficiency numbers that had been declining for months started climbing. Equipment downtime dropped by 60%. Material waste decreased by $180,000 quarterly. Corporate stopped asking questions and started asking about expanding the methodology to other plants. Mason, meanwhile, got transferred to corporate planning, something to do with strategic forecasting where he couldn't claim ownership of operational improvements. I heard through people still working there that he'd requested a transfer to a different company within 8 months. But here's the thing. The satisfaction wasn't just in proving I was right, it was in building something that lasted beyond that confrontation. My consulting practice kept growing. The 21 plants became 32, then 45. Steel operations started reaching out before they hit crisis mode, wanting preventive assessments, wanting someone to look at their processes before they committed resources to strategies that wouldn't work. 18 months after I walked out of that executive meeting, I was working with clients in 11 states, making more in a quarter than I'd made in a year at my old job, getting invited to speak at metallurgy conferences about process optimization and efficiency turnarounds. People knew my name now. When I walked into plants, they knew exactly who I was and why I was there. Sarah graduated from Penn State with honors, debt-free. Linda was able to cut back to part-time at the hospital and take some of the nursing education courses she'd always wanted. Mike moved into his own apartment and started dating a girl from his welding crew. We weren't worried about money anymore. For the first time in years, we could actually plan for things we wanted to do, not just things we had to pay for. And Mason? Last I heard, he took a position at a smaller operation in a different state. Somewhere his reputation hadn't followed him. The steel industry is smaller than people think. Word gets around. Your work has to be undeniably yours. Looking back now, I realized that walking out that day wasn't just about Mason stealing credit. It was about finally valuing myself enough to demand what I was worth. At 53, I learned something I should have figured out 20 years earlier. Nobody's going to fight for your recognition harder than you will. If you're reading this and you're in your 50s, thinking it's too late to start over, thinking you're stuck where you are, you're not. The skills you've spent decades building, the knowledge you've accumulated, the problems you know how to solve, those have value. Real value. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to accept less than you're worth. Your experience isn't just years on the job, it's the compound interest of every problem you've solved, every mistake you've learned from, and every innovation you've created. That knowledge doesn't depreciate with age. It becomes more valuable because fewer people possess it. The moment you stop waiting for permission to be valued and start demanding the respect your expertise deserves, you discover that the market has been looking for exactly what you offer. They just didn't know where to find it until you stepped forward.